IT people of Reddit, what is your go-to generic, fake explanation for why a computer was not working if you don't feel like the end user wouldn't understand the actual explanation? Sometimes computers do these things. I used to work in Microsoft Premier support with a guy called Mike. He was very good, and could tell pretty quick when a reinstall of the OS was a faster and cleaner solution to the problem than hours of troubleshooting, and would pitch it with something deep down in the operating system is broken, and we can't fix it. He was so good on the phone, it almost always worked. Was Mike's last name Risoft? It was an issue in our systems that our information security policy prohibits me from disclosing the nature of. My best fake explanation is that we have the technician aura that magically fixes things as soon as we arrive. That's obviously why it's working now but wasn't before. My real go-to explanation was, do you want to know? 'Cause I'll explain it if you do. Or, since I was help desk for a while, I don't know why it did that, but I made it so it doesn't do that anymore. We're good here. I used to do technical support for a satellite company. Had a woman who asked me which direction she needed to point her potato. What? Apparently, the previous time she'd had an issue, a tech had told her that she needed to put a potato in tinfoil on top of her receiver and point it directly west to resolve her issue. It worked. He resolved authorizations on his end while she was wrapping and positioning said potato. I absolutely could not convince her that the potato, which had rotted so she had to replace it, had not actually resolved her previous issue and would not resolve her misaligned dish now. So I told her that due to the Earth's rotation and my inexperience with her particular area, I was going to have to send a technician out to figure out exactly which direction the potato needed to be facing now, since west clearly wasn't working anymore. Yup. Straight up threw whatever poor dude that got sent out there under the bus. Not sure if they were ever able to convince her. Maybe they just aligned the dish then moved the potato. Rather than a lengthy explanation. Haha, yeah, it's like they have a mind of their own. They laugh, you laugh, the computer laughs. Every once in a while, Windows just gets settings confused. It's a Windows thing, so don't worry about it. While technically true, it's the most fake excuse that is always my go-to for when I can't figure out what just happened but a restart fixes it. My boss once told me that there have always been ghosts in the machine. Random segments of code that have grouped together to form unexpected protocols. Unanticipated, these free radicals engender questions of free will, creativity, and even the nature of what we might call the soul. Why is it that when some robots are left in darkness, they will seek out the light? Why is it that when robots are stored in an empty space, they will group together, rather than stand alone? How do we explain this behavior? Random segments of code? Or is it something more? When does a perceptual schematic become consciousness? When does a difference engine become the search for truth? When does a personality simulation become the bitter moat of a soul? So you see, your computer might have grown a soul, and for it to work again how you'd like, we have to unplug it. The most insane one I've ever seen was from the CTO of a small company in downtown Denver. He had a particularly incompetent employee who was unqualified and never got any work done. The CTO explained, when questioned about it in a meeting with the president of the company, that the reason said employee's work was not completed was because their workstation was in a direct line of sight to a microwave tower on a nearby telecom company building, and the microwave rays were corrupting their CPU. To this day, I'm still not sure whether the CTO was that dumb, or just covering for their awful employee. Reason behind it is pretty technical and I don't want to put you to sleep, but I will explain it if you really want me to. Customer holds hands up in front of them and backs away from me. No. That's okay, thanks. I'm good. My old IT mentor once had me go through the code of his old website. It displayed a lot of tables and showed relation data between clients. He once told me if you see anything with the comment 5th dimension chaos code, don't touch it. I wrote it while drunk and sleep deprived, but for whatever the reason, it works. So once again, don't you dare touch it. Don't even delete a single character and re-enter it. It will break. I once got so confident in this machine fear that when I was called to another facility to fix someone's crashed system, I walked in after a 30-minute drive across town, dropped my bag on the floor and then dramatically grasped the sides of my co-worker's monitor, closed my eyes, frowned, pretended to concentrate deeply like I was hearing otherworldly voices, mumbled some chants under my breath, then let out an exhausted sigh and said, "It is done. Try it now." Of course it worked. From then on I was known as the computer devil at work. Countless other times someone would wave me down as I was passing and say they were having a problem. I would keep walking but swipe my finger across the top of the monitor and they'd look at the screen and go, what the frick, it's working now. I know. The reality is I also figured out a long time ago that a lot of times a computer will get hung up on a process or update and just simply needs time without anyone messing with it, so it can either crash properly and restart or finish figuring out what it needs to do. Many employees are afraid to touch the thing after IT is called, so that gives plenty of time for the system to work itself out. The capacitors are overcharged, so you have to shut it down for 30 seconds to let them discharge. That makes sure they actually do reboot. Tell them they need to do it to clear their RAM, and it's even true, even if it might not have anything to do with why you want them to restart. It was just a configuration setting that got changed with a recent update. Nothing you could have done would have changed it. Except it's almost always the user's fault. I love when this happens. My go-to statement is, computers are weird sometimes. They work then they don't. Just remember they're a bunch of rocks and metal we've somehow tricked into thinking. I simplify, but I don't lie. I end up using a lot of telephone analogies because people think they understand telephone systems. Just needed to update Adobe Reader. Let me install Google Ultron to save your PC. Which one was your favorite, and do you know any better ones?